Good evening. I hope whoever is listening to this is having a really great night. And if you've gotten to part 4, you've kind of seen that this book isn't really what I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was gonna be pretty cute tales, but everything ends with a rifle or someone being stupid or something like that. But I'm having fun with it, so I'm gonna keep going. All right. This is the stork who married a dumb wife. A Danish stork who was in the habit of spending 6 nights a week out on the town with the boys, drinking and dicing and playing the match game. His wife had never left their nest, which was on a chimney top, since he married her, for he did not want her to get wise to the ways of the male. When he got home, which was usually at 4 o'clock in the morning, unless the party had gone on to Reuben's, he always brought her a box of candy and handed it to her together with a stork story, which is the same as a cock and bull story. "I have been out delivering babies," he would say. "It's killing me, but it is my duty to go on." "What do you deliver babies for?" she said one morning. "Human beings," he said. "A human being cannot have a baby without help from someone. All the other animals can, but human beings are helpless. They depend on the other animals for everything from food and clothing to companionship." Just then the phone rang and the stork answered it. "Another baby on the way," he said, when he had hung up. "I'll have to go out again tonight." So that night he went out again and did not get home until 37 in the evening, or 7:30 in the morning. "This was a very special case," he said, handing his wife a box of candy. 5 girls. He did not add that the 5 girls were all blondes in their 20s. After a while, the female stork got to thinking. Her husband had told her never to leave the nest because the world was full of stork traps. But she began to doubt this. So she flew out into the world, looking and listening. In this way, she learned to tell time and to take male talk with a grain of salt. She found out that a candy is dandy, as the poet had said, but that ticket is quicker. It's very late. I'm sleepy. But that liquor is quicker. She discovered that the offspring of the human species is never brought into the world by storks. This last discovery was a great blow to her, but it was a greater blow to Papa when he came home the next morning at 5:45. "Hello, you phony obstruction," said wife coldly. "How are all the blonde quintuplets today?" And she crowned him with a chimney brick. Moral: the male was made to lie and roam, but woman's place is in the home. Not a good moral. This book is awesome. Alright. The Great Isle in the Sea. One sweet morning, in the year of our Lord, 1939, a little old gentleman got up and threw wide the windows of his bedroom, letting in the living sun. A black widow spider, who had been dozing on the balcony, slashed at him, and although she missed, she did not miss very far. The old gentleman went downstairs to the dining room, and was just sitting down to a splendid breakfast when with his grandson, a boy named Bert, pulled the chair from under him. The old man's hip was strained, but it was fortunately not broken. Out in the street, as he limped toward a little park with many trees, which was to him a green isle in the sea, the old man tripped up by a gaily colored hoop sent rolling at him with a kind of disinterested deliberation by a grim little girl, hobbling on a block farther. The old man was startled, but not exactly surprised, when a bold daylight robber struck a gun in his ribs. "Put 'em up, Mac," said the robber, "and come across." Mac put them up, came across with his watch and money, and a gold ring his mother had given him when he was a boy. When at last the old gentleman staggered into the little park, which had been to him a fountain and a shrine, he saw that half of the trees had been killed by a blight and the other half by a bug. Their leaves were gone, and they no longer afforded any protection from the skies, so that the 100 planes, which appeared suddenly overhead, had an excellent view of the little old gentleman through their bombing sights. Moral: the world is so full of a number of things. I am sure we should all be as happy as kings, and you know how happy kings are. The Crow and the Oriole. Once upon a time, the crow fell in love with the Baltimore oriole. He had seen her flying past his nest every spring on her way north and every autumn on her way south, and he had decided that she was a tasty dish. He had observed that she came north every year with a different gentleman, but he paid no attention to the fact that all the gentlemen were Baltimore orioles. Anybody can have that mouse, he said to himself. So he went to his wife and told her that he was in love with a Baltimore oriole, who was as cute as a cufflink. He said he wanted a divorce, so his wife gave him one simply by opening the door and handing him his hat. "Don't come crying to me home when she throws you down," she said. "That fly-by season hasn't got a brain in her head. She can't cook or sew. Her upper register sounds like a streetcar taking a curve. You can find out in any dictionary that the crow is the smartest and most capable of birds, or was, till you became one." "Tush," said the male crow. "Pish, you are simply a jealous woman." He tossed her a few dollars. "Here," he said, "go buy yourself some finery. You look like the bottom of an old tea kettle," and off he went to look for the oriole. This was in the springtime, and he met her coming north with an oriole he had never seen before. The crow stopped the female oriole and pleaded his cause, or should we say, cawed his pleas. At any rate, he courted her in a harsh, grating voice, which made her laugh merrily. "You sound like an old window shutter," she said, and she snapped her fingers at him. "I am bigger and stronger than your gentleman friend," said the crow. "I have a vocabulary larger than his. All the orioles in this country couldn't even lift the corn I own. I am a fine sentinel, and my voice can be heard for miles in case of danger." "I don't see how that could interest anybody but another crow," said the female oriole, and she laughed at him, and flew on toward the north. The male oriole tossed the crow some coins. "Here," he said, "go buy yourself a blazer or something. You look like the bottom of an old coffee pot." The crow flew back sadly to his nest, but his wife was not there. He found a note pinned to the door. "I have gone away with Bert," it read. "You will find some arsenic in the medicine chest." Moral: even the llama should stick to mama. Okay. This will be the last one for the night. The elephant who challenged the world. An elephant who lived in Africa woke up one morning with the conviction that he would defeat all the other animals in the world in a single combat, one at a time. He wondered that he hadn't thought of it before. After breakfast, he called first on the lion. "You are only the king of beasts," bellowed the elephant, "whereas I am the ace." And he demonstrated his prowess by knocking the lion out in 15 minutes. No holds barred. Then, in quick succession, he took on the wild boar, the water buffalo, the rhinoceros, the hippopotamus, the giraffe, the zebra, the eagle, and the vulture, and he conquered them all. After that, the elephant spent most of his time in bed, eating peanuts, while the other animals, who were now his slaves, built for him the largest house any animal in the world had ever had. It was 5 stories high, solidly made of the hardest wood to be found in Africa. When it was finished, the ace of beasts moved in and announced that he could pin back the ears of any animal in the world. He challenged all comers to meet him in the basement of the big house, where he had set up a prize ring 10 times the regulation size. Several days went by, and then the elephant got an anonymous letter accepting his challenge. "Be in your basement tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock, the message read. So at 3 o'clock the next day, the elephant went down to the basement to meet a mysterious opponent, but there was no one there, or at least no one he could see. "Come out from behind whatever you're behind," roared the elephant. "I'm not behind anything," said a tiny voice. The elephant tore around the basement, upsetting barrels and boxes, banging his head against the furnace pipes, rocking the house on its foundations, and he could not find his opponent. At the end of an hour, the elephant roared that the whole business was a trick and a deceit, probably ventriloquism, and that he would never come down to the basement again. "Oh, yes, you will," said the tiny voice. "You'll be back here at 3 o'clock tomorrow, and you'll end up on your back." The elephant's laughter shook the house. "We'll see about that," he said. The next afternoon, the elephant, who slept on the 5th floor of the house, woke up at 2:30 o'clock and looked at his wristwatch. "Nobody I can't see will ever get me down to the basement again," he growled, and went back to sleep. At exactly 3 o'clock, the house began to tremble and quiver as if an earthquake had it in its paws. Pillars and beams bent and broke like reeds, for they were all drilled full of tiny holes. The 5th floor gave way completely and crashed down upon the 4th, which fell upon the 3rd, which fell upon the 2nd, which carried away the 1st, as if it had been the floor of the berry basket. The elephant was precipitated into the basement, where he fell heavily upon the concrete floor and lay there on his back, completely unconscious. A tiny voice began to count him out. At the count of 10, the elephant came to, but he could not get up. "What animal are you?" he demanded of the mysterious voice in a quivering tone which had lost its menace. "I am the termite," answered the voice. The other animals, straining and struggling for a week, finally got the elephant lifted out of the basement and put him in jail. He spent the rest of his life there, broken in spirit and back. Moral: the battle is sometimes to the small, for the bigger they are, the harder they fall. That will do it for tonight. Sleep well.